So a few days ago in Michigan, there was this church that had a guy come in that was heavily armed, and a churchgoer ran him over with a truck, and then the other armed people at the church dispatched him before a mass event happened. And this is a wild story, and it's a dreadful reminder for all of us who go to church, and that we have a responsibility to protect the church. And this is the AP report that says a pastor says God and a heroic security team prevented a mass shooting at his Detroit area church. And pastor said Monday the hand of God prevented this tragedy from happening in a Detroit area church when a man was struck by a pickup truck and fatally dispatched by security staff before he could enter and attack more than 100 people. On Monday, a day after the Thwarted attack, the leader of Cross Point Community Church in Wayne praised the actions of the security team, which had been in place for more than 10 years. Pastor Bobby Kelly said he met the gunman 3 times in the past. Quote, "I can't say for sure what was in his heart or in his mind because he's never threatened me in any way," Kelly told the AP. This young man was definitely struggling mentally. He thought he was hearing from God. We had some conversations about that. Children from the church's vacation Bible school were leading Sunday's worship and were finishing a song when the congregation heard gunfire outside. Kelly, who was poised to start a sermon, initially thought the noise was coming from a construction crew. And Kelly said a church member arriving late had spotted Brian Browning driving recklessly and called out to him as he exited his car wearing a tactical vest and carrying a rifle and a handgun. The church member struck him with his pickup truck. So this guy pulls up late, sees a guy getting out of his car with a tactical vest and some small arms items, and runs him over. And what a blessing! And that's how you do it. Browning, 31, began firing as he approached the church, striking one person in the leg, and at least 2 staff members shot him. He is a hero, said of the pickup driver. I think this is my favorite part of this article. I think that the Lord was leading him to do that. That means I think the Lord was leading him to run this guy over with his truck. America. He hit this individual with a car, drove right on the grass because he was shooting at the building at the time, and certainly helped the team to be able to respond. What a scary, this is scary. Browning did not have any previous contacts with police, but may have been suffering a mental health crisis, police said. The heroic actions of the church staff saved many lives, Strong said. And they found all kinds of stuff at his home. Browning's mother occasionally attended the church service, was not there on Sunday. To console her, let her know that she shouldn't feel guilty about his actions and that we are still there for her. She is a grieving mom right now because of this tragedy. And Dustin Fuoco was managing the church audio equipment when the congregation dashed to the doors. Instant panic. He anxiously looked for his wife and son and found them outside in a wooded area. It sounded like a jackhammer, he said. 20 seconds later, we end up hearing that the same round of 10 shots, and that's when the realization set into what this was. The pastor said the church had a security team even before he arrived in 2016, introduced by the previous church leadership in response to incidences that had happened elsewhere. Most people would never even know if they came to our church, some that are armed and some that are not, but they are trained. And so it's interesting. He was going to preach a sermon that Sunday on that God's hand of deliverance and his ability to protect. I find that to be very interesting. But, we live in a day and age now where, unfortunately, this is something that churches have to take in consideration. There are people out there who are just in bad shape mentally, emotionally. I would even suggest you maybe even demonically. And, we really are in the last days. And I think that this is the type of stuff that needs to be talked about. And I think a church needs to have a plan in place for this type of stuff. Let me give you some Bible here. 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 1. Last days, perilous times shall come. For men shall be lovers of their own selves, covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, without natural affection, truce breakers, false accusers, incontinent, fierce, despisers of those that are good, And so that's where we are at now. I mean, this is in perilous days shall come, and perilous days are here. And so I do believe, of course, I live in America. I know that my audience is international, but I do live in America. We were able to have firearms, and I think every Christian should, if you can legally where you live, I think you should, for just this very kind of stuff right here. Now, I am obviously somebody who believes in the Second Amendment and the right to self-defense. I met a woman in the airport years ago, and she asked me, it was in the run-up to the election between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. And we were in Nairobi. I was actually in Nairobi, and we were both going to go get on an airplane to go to London. She was probably getting off there, and I was going back to America. And she said, "Well, I hope you're voting for a certain woman in the upcoming election." I said, "Well, no, I'm actually not." And she says, "Well, why not?" I said, "Well, one of the reasons why I can't is because I believe in the right to self-defense." And she said, "What do you mean by that?" And I explained to her what I meant. And just to put it mildly, she didn't want to have the conversation anymore. But I do believe, as a father, as a Christian, as a preacher, I think I have the right and the responsibility to make sure that church is a safe place. Not only from predators who would want to manipulate and come in and steal, not only from false doctrine that would want to come in and subvert, but from crazies who would want to come in and slaughter. And I think that we have not only the right, but I think we have the responsibility as Christian men to be ready for this type of stuff. And so I'm not saying that we should turn the local church into some sort of compound and put barbed wire fence around the whole property, of course. I think the church should have a welcomeness to it, but it should also have an understanding that don't come in here if you're going to do that. You'll get lead poisoning, and you'll have a bad day. You'll have a real bad day if you try that here. And so I think that I don't think there needs to be a paranoia about this kind of stuff, but I do think there needs to be a vigilance and there needs to be a watchfulness about this kind of stuff. And in this situation, I think it was the kind hand of the providence of God that had somebody come in late and saw what was happening and tried to deal with it in the parking lot so it didn't get in the church. There was so many kids in there. There's like 100 kids in that place. And because there are people who are having these crises mentally, and they need help, obviously, but sometimes they get to the point where maybe they fell through the cracks, or somebody missed all the signs were there and somebody missed it, or they just suddenly and unexpectedly spiraled. And sometimes it does come to that, and I hate that. I don't rejoice in that. I don't think that's a wonderful thing. But I do say, amen, these were some heroic people, and I commend them. I commend them for what they did. Thank you for protecting these kids and this church people. And I think, unfortunately, we live in a day now where churches need to have this conversation. They need to have a plan. They need to have some sort of measures in place to where at least somebody, if that does happen, at least somebody is capable of responding. Subscribe to this channel if you're new. We talk about contemporary theological issues all the time. Go watch Third Adam, our documentary series, for free on this channel. And subscribe, of course. And smite your like button, or the lizard people will get you. God bless you. Have a good day.